thing.
Your face should not be in the video, I think.
After election night and a little before, we've got voter fraud claims. Voter fraud claims are used to advance the DOJ fraud, and they're used to advance the court cases. They're also used for this electoral slate meme. And they're used to get state legislatures to retract their votes, as well as these two. The next stage of this is trying to get the state legislatures to retract their votes, pressuring the public, ratcheting up the public, and then using the electoral slate fraud plus the state legislature thing to challenge the certification in Congress, or get Mike Pence to toss to decertify the election. Okay, the way that I think I want to tell this is I have a thesis for what I'm setting out to prove. And I think I'm trying to do this. I want to have this like as a story structure. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to bounce between a few different storylines, and I'm trying to have like a narrative structure between these storylines that like builds from one to the next to the next to the next to the next, and then it kind of like moves through like an actual like a storytelling type thing. So I don't know how I would like start the video, like what I would do for the hook initially. Like I'm not just going to be reading a thesis, but I have what I've tried to do is I've got all of my research and all of my big claims here, and then what I'm trying to do is set up basically, I'm trying to weave all of these narratives together that advances the flow chart and then gets us towards like some coherent thing at the end, basically. So like the start would be starting with Pence and how he basically says on election night, we're going to count the rest of the votes. So the beginning element of the story would be kind of setting the stage for everything. So we have Pence, who is stopping Trump from calling the election on November 3rd, and everything that about election night, I guess. That's a small thing. From there, we would start with the voter fraud claims from a little bit before November 3rd up through December 3rd. I'm trying to introduce all the key characters throughout each of these so that I can keep bringing them on screen again and then reminding people like who they are and what they do. For this, since we're just setting the stage, I would be presenting my three big voter fraud claims and just like how they originate. And then we would go to the DOJ and we would talk about Trump trying to pressure Barr initially, or not pressure Barr, but ask Barr to do investigations. And then we would bring up the start of all the court cases, the 64 cases that are filed from November 4th onto wherever all the filings are. Then we would bounce to the electoral slate memes that would start on November 7th. And we would talk about the initial plans to kind of get these things rolling. This is like I think this is like the setting the stage part. We'd have a minor confrontation part. I think it's pretty ordinary early on in stories. Usually there's some small confrontation. I think my minor confrontation part here is going to be, we'll talk about Barr's investigations. Barr's investigations don't go so well. And then eventually this goes to December 14th. So basically Barr says he can't find shit. He wants to bounce. I think that's my minor confrontation there. And then after Barr is gone, we go back and we build more. So we've got Pence and all of the stories and the ideas to ratchet up the pressure on Mike Pence. And this is just going to go up through when Gohmert files his case on the 27th. And then we'll bounce back to the voter fraud stuff. We'll go from the 28th to the 3rd. And then this will be going through all of the different claims that Trump and his cronies make relating to voter fraud, news articles, videos, all of this. Obviously, there's no solid evidence. Maybe Powell talking about the Kraken. We'll bounce to the 64 court cases. I'll see how those are going somewhere in this time span from late November to late December. Then we'll bounce over to the DOJ where Barr is left. And then we'll talk about Trump trying to get his new DOJ on board with all the new voter fraud things, but obviously they aren't really a big fan of it. I might dip into the Clark stuff here, but this ends on January 2nd. Then we bounce to Pence, and then Pence's is just kind of the memos and stuff happening inside. This is from November 15th to 27th, where we talk about the Pence stuff. And then from there, I move to big confrontations, voter fraud stuff getting shot down by in-admin people or other people of high repute. Court cases, I believe most of the court cases have failed at this point. We bring back in Pence's stuff and how Trump is trying to ratchet up pressure on Pence, but him and his legal counsel seem unwilling to go along with it. Then we do the big DOJ meme meeting on January 3rd and the explosion there. Then we come back and we do Pence's huge meeting on the 4th, and then how everything fails there. And then all of this leads us to, I think the day of would be January 6th. And then by the day of January 6th, the only thing that we have functional at that point, I think, is Pence and possibly congressmen challenging the certification in Congress, and then maybe public pressure because the DOJ fraud failed, all the court cases failed, the voter fraud claims didn't really accomplish anything, state legislatures didn't retract their votes. So you basically have these three things working in tandem to try to do this. The public pressure succeeds a little bit in delaying it. The challenging of the certification didn't go like they wanted it to. Pence didn't stop the certification of the election, so then it kind of fails from there. And then it'll just be an aftermath for where do things end, I think. It's John Eastman, not Mike Eastman. Oh, John Eastman, whatever. I think narratively, I think this works. It just comes down to like writing the script for this, or basically scripting this. I feel like I need to just write this out or write more out. I'm trying to think if I were to focus group. So this is going to be the format that I want the video to go in. I keep saying my goal is like less than 30 minutes, but I don't know realistically what it'll end up being. The important thing is that I feel like I only have what I need and I'm not throwing in a bunch of like extra random stupid shit. I'm trying to think of what I need. If I want to test one more focus group, I'm trying to think of if I would just read them down the script and then like videos, or if I would make like a rough draft of the video. I feel like that's kind of excessive. Don't limit the timing. I believe each of these sections, unless there's a ton of video A, it should probably be 10 to 15 minutes. Yeah, I'm not going to limit the timing if I feel like it's... I'm not going to cut anything important out. I just want to make sure I'm hitting all the key points. Yeah. You see, Jill Stein doesn't know how many are in the House of Representatives. Yeah. Limit the timing to 2 hours for the focus group. I feel like at each section you should bring up the key arguments people make against this stuff and refute them. I'm not going to waste my time with that. I don't think it's worth bringing those up. All of them are retarded. And I think if you know any of the story, then I don't have time to debunk every retarded thing somebody says about something. I could do separate videos on that if we wanted to, but there's no room for any of that bullshit besides if you know all the facts and all the story. I think the 30-minute goal isn't necessary when there are 4-hour-long videos with 25 million views. No, but I want it to be like accessible. Okay, I'm just making sure I'm not missing anything obvious. I don't think I am. I think I have to write the script offline though. There's no way I'm writing the script for this while streaming. I'd rather kill myself. I am thinking in terms of like illustrating characters and stuff. Do you think doing it like in a chibi whatever bullshit, like cutesy or whatever, if it's a serious video, I wonder if that would undermine it or if it would work, or if it would be or if it should be like serious. Lamino's style has a good tone.
Just let me know. Right outside the United States Capitol lies the headquarters of the Central Intelligence.
I don't think he does any animated characters for any of his things. He did it for the JFK stuff.
presidential limousine.
Did he? Seems like he has portraits for everybody.
That there were those.
These cartridges, this one and this one, looks like they are further.
He has voice actors for this. There is no original testimony that's actually being narrated, right? Like people that are actually speaking. It's all actors he's hired to do this.
Says about a shot or even the number of shots.
Glanced up at the book.
There's one guy in Russia that Vladimir Putin, the president, fears scientists during the Cold War. Important question, which is who is people? And if this makes these long videos, deep, compelling evidence that shows just how bad this situation is, just how in bed the government is with these rich billionaires, but always peppered with a good amount of this guy to keep that indeed they were the ones behind. A confession. He calls an intelligence agent who has COVID and is like ditched out in his house at 7 a.m. He's like delirious. And he goes on to pretend that he is a leader in the intelligence agency. He has all this insider information, the ones behind this poisoning.
Montego was known to have recently the oldest of the bunch, enjoyed confiding in his friends, however was known to lack basic common sense. In conversation ensued surrounding sports in the name of bears, where they loaded up on a hostess cherry pie, a lemon pie. Mind to the Mercury Montego, since it wasn't took place.
By the end of this, okay, hold on. Let me list this out a second in my brain. By the end of this, people that I think are important to tell this story, to make sure they're included in at least one section of this. We need Donald Trump. We need Giuliani. We need Powell. Definitely need Clark. I'm thinking of the bad guys. Definitely need Chesbro. Definitely need Eastman. Giuliani, Powell, Clark, Chesbro, Eastman, Donald Trump. On the other side, we've got Pence. Definitely need Short. Definitely need Raffensperger in Germany. Short. What was the other guy's name? Was it Anthony? Wait. No, Jacob. Short and Jacob. Raffensperger in Germany. All the White House guys. So Hirschman, Cipollone. Do we really need these guys? They're good for one section. Engel. Cipollone, Engel, Hirschman. We definitely need Barr. Who else? Was there one more White House lawyer guy? Cipollone, Steve Engel. Oh, we need the Rosen and Donahue.
One single scientist created
There's way too much work.
Now, Real Fuels, the ethyl, years of working on the problem, like calcium, heat, warned them against producing.
Is August editing this? Maybe I'll give it to him or somebody else.
Hey, buddy.
Oh, hi. What's up?
You sent me a message. What's up?
What's the most complicated video you think you've ever done before?
The most complicated video I've ever done. Probably Super Mega was complicated as fuck. Why do you ask?
Well, because I'm working. I need to finish this video that I want to do, but the narrative structure is complicated. So I'm curious, how did you plan it all out?
Do you have a thing I can look at?
No, but yes. Hold on. The fuck? Why was the super mega thing complicated?
Because it's so many different people at so many different times with so many different stories, and like trying to weave it all into one narrative is very difficult.
It's produced
Based, okay. It's the super mega allegations are back, right?
Did you even watch?
Yeah, that video was really long. That video even didn't do an amazing. It could have been structured a bit better. Typically, the way I like to think about a video is, do you remember in like English class in school, they would give you like this plot diagram of like, you have the exposition, you have like the rising action, you have like the climax, you have like the falling action, then like the resolution. Remember that?
Yeah, that's how I'm trying to set mine up. Yeah.
Typically, that's how you have to do it. So you have to like figure out in the timeline, like when it's like writing a movie almost, right? It's like when each character has to be introduced and at what point in time is the information relevant, and is every piece of information relevant, and then how are you going to like build the story? Because the challenge of doing what you're trying to do, is this the J6 thing?
Yeah.
The challenge of what you're trying to do is like building real life events into a narrative, which I think luckily for you, the J6 stuff is a narrative that you do have. Like from my perspective, how I would do it is like, let's fit it into that movie structure again, or like the plot summary structure. So the beginning of the video is going to be like a hook. Like right away, you want to do a hook to get people in the door.
Yeah.
Now the hook simultaneously has to be captivating to get people to keep watching. But also the second challenge that you have that I don't necessarily have is you don't want it to get people to turn the video off, because you don't want to like
Drive them away because you're too
aggressive.
radical. Yeah.
You want to frame it more like what really happened, that kind of thing. Like,
Sure.
and you don't, and even saying what really happened has to be super unloaded. You have to be very careful with how you phrase that kind of thing.
Sure. Although I'm going to it's me, so people are all going to come in assuming I'm going to have a certain view, right? Like everybody knows my perspective.
That is true. But that doesn't mean that everybody knows who you are, or
That's true,
everybody's going to have
yeah.
that notion. And even if like, are there going to be people who are unwilling to listen? Yes, but that's been the case forever. There will be like, I don't know, out of, let's say 100% of Trump voters, it might be like 7% of them are willing to actually watch, even at a morbid curiosity, so they can like own you, right? It might be that. But so you need to set up the hook. The hook is really important for getting people interested and invested. Then what you need to do is in the exposition part, to me, from the story that I know about here, would be Trump's presidency. It would be like circumstances around it, specifically relating to the election. Like if I were you during that section, I wouldn't focus too much on his policy position. I would try to make it, because almost to me, the story here is like, regardless of whatever Trump's politics are, regardless of what he believes, the problem is that he superseded those beliefs to try to destroy democracy, right? Like that's the real story. So you need to make it a story that like bipartisanly people can get behind. So I think it would be bad to delve too much into like,
Sure.
not that I think you would,
for what I have
like,
scripted out, there's absolutely nothing about policies in here at all. So
that's great. That's excellent. But the beginning portion there is going to be building like what the climate was at the time, what the atmosphere was. And you're going to need like a lot of specific examples to set up like the conditions that need to be met to reach the lead up to January 6th. And the lead up, I think, is going to be kind of like a breakdown of like time periods. So there is one good video that I like that does a good job of communicating a complicated issue. So this video and videos like it from this channel called Lemino. Let me message you this video. Obviously visually it's kind of hard to pull off. It's
we've watched this one, the JFK one, yeah.
Oh, did you? The great thing about this video is it sets up every person that you need to know about. It has specific quotes, has specific sources. It has, all the sources cited, obviously, but it really gives you a great narrative that you can delve into that gives you like a point-by-point like breakdown of how it went. And then from there, once people see the breakdown and they start drawing their own conclusions, you won't even have to make like a strong conclusion until the very end. And so that's like one of the big things to me about making a video like this, if you want to convince people, is show your conclusion. Do not tell people it, right?
Yeah.
Because if you tell them it at any point in the video until the very end, they're going to really, really hate it. But if you were to, like, I remember when I was watching your January 6th coverage, I was initially under the impression and this is not even from your full breakdown you did with me. This is from your prior videos. I was under the impression that it was like just kind of a goofy event that happened. It wasn't really Trump's fault. He didn't really support it. That was kind of and it wasn't that serious. That was my understanding. I didn't even know about the Mike Pence stuff.
Sure.
But if you slowly, and when I say Mike Pence stuff, I mean like hang Mike Pence. But if you slowly build a narrative and get people in the door and keep drip feeding them information that's interesting, but also portrays a certain image, and you slowly build and build and build to that, then once January 6th happens, that's going to be the obvious to me, like climax of the situation. And that will be the big thing. And then the fallout will be like the Fox News lawsuit or the OAN lawsuit or Giuliani getting convicted and stuff like that. And so that is how I would structure it. It's like it's like a movie, right? I see the Trump thing very much like almost the Wolf of Wall Street, right? Like you have these cast of characters, they're introduced, here's some information about them. But the Wolf of Wall Street never really gets into the specifics of like what Jordan Belfort actually did. Like it kind of communicates it, but it's not in some grand, like deep analysis of it. It's more like, here are the characters. When I say what they did, I mean like from the financial side. Instead, you see them as characters, and you get to see their motivations as characters through their words. And I think that's a really important thing as well. Like
Sure.
specific verbiage from what Trump said. But yeah, I think the timeline you laid out in that like 6-hour breakdown was really good. The main problem with it is it's 6 hours, and it probably has to be about an hour and a half to 2 hours, probably. Yeah. Maybe you could do 3, maybe.
I think my goal initially was like a 20-minute thing, and then I'm like 30 to 40 minutes, and now my goal is kind of like under an hour, but I'm not sure. Here is, okay, hold on. I'm shooting you 2 links, okay? So from our focus group, you see that draft 2?
Yes.
So the first link I sent is basically what I try to do is I'm trying to identify like a few key stories that I think encapsulate the essence of everything that happened. I have a fuck ton of links in terms of video and audio and media things. I feel like for a story like this, I feel like I have also stop me if I say something you disagree with, or if you want to comment or whatever, okay? This is just my idea, so because I'm going to video like this, okay? I feel like when I'm presenting something like this, my best form of evidence is always testimony from the accused. So anytime Trump is talking about a thing, or like Bannon or Stone or any of his like collaborators are talking about a thing, that's I feel like really big. And then if I can get other people's testimony on video where they're talking about what they saw, like I think I might have spoken this in the focus group, but there's a video of, I think it's Rosen saying, Donald Trump told us to just call the election corrupt and leave the rest to him. Like if I can get videos of so many people saying things like that, I think that's a really big thing.
Yeah, it is huge. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and I think another huge thing was just him being in the hotel room and like them contacting him for hours and hours.
Yeah.
Another important thing is there was some quote from like a White House secretary who said it was something like they're saying hang Mike Pence, and he was like maybe they should.
Sure. Yeah.
Whatever that quote was. I think that's really important. Let me take a look at this. Is this dude's name actually Raffensperger?
Raffensperger, yeah. You don't have to, the draft 2 actually doesn't matter that much. This is just a huge link dump of the things I want to focus on. Okay, so in draft 3, the next link that I gave you, okay? Okay, all right. Jesus, okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so in my mind, what I'm basically seeing this as, okay, so you're familiar with basic narrative structure, right? Have you ever watched like a sitcom before?
Yeah.
Okay, or like a soap opera kind of. Are you familiar with like the building action where typically you're watching one scene and there are like kind of mini narrative structures in each scene where all of them are kind of like building towards a thing, and then you cut and you go to the next, and then it build towards a thing, and then you cut and you go to the next, and they kind of like connect, kind of like that?
Yes.
So I'm envisioning like these storylines kind of weaving together, basically like a soap opera type plot.
Like an A plot, B plot type thing.
Kind of, yeah, basically, yeah, that feed into a larger thing.
I think that'll be good. Have you talked to August about this at all?
A little bit, but he's convinced this is a waste of time. So, and he might be right, because the amount of effort that I'm putting into this is probably not going to be like. There's a chance that I do this video, and it's like a 400,000 view video. I'm like, okay, whatever. But I have to do it now for my own consciousness. Okay.
Right.
This is okay. I'm outlining broadly what I have in this draft 3. This is kind of like my broad idea of it, and then you tell me if it. Okay, so I don't know how I'll present the thesis because I am aware of what you're saying. I've got competing forces here. I want a strong hook, but if the hook is like Donald Trump tried to steal the election, I've lost like half the people that I'm trying to convince. But yeah, we'll see. So I need some kind of like strong opening or hook that puts out the thesis. The next part, so the first section I basically have is like a setting the stage. So the first thing I open with is like the first section of Mike Pence's story, where he, on election night, people don't notice, but he says that we're going to wait till all the votes are counted, and then all of these rumors about voter fraud start. Trump tries to call the election. The next little part is the voter fraud claims. I want to introduce like the important characters at the start of every section so that people remember the names. It won't be a lot, but just so they start like saying like, this is Trump, Giuliani, Powell. It'll just be going through, I want to focus on just 3 voter fraud claims instead of going through like 100 of them. I just want to focus on 3 important ones that I can follow from start to finish. So it'll just be saying like, this is what they said about Dominion. This is what they said about Pennsylvania. This is what they said about Georgia. No debunking, no counterclaim, just like this is what is starting to be presented.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you would be preloading the video for a lot of viewers if you were to debunk it right away.
Correct. Yeah.
Probably.
So all of this is just setting the stage, as in, so this would be like the beginning of the movie where the bad guys are starting to take over, I guess, or some bullshit, right? The DOJ fraud from November 9th to November 29th. This is just Trump telling Barr, hey, I need you to investigate some voter fraud. Barr is like, all right, we'll start to open all the investigations. And then you've got like the 64 court cases where Donald Trump and his team start to launch all the court cases. And then you've got the plan for the electoral slates where they're like, we also need to make these slates. So all of this stuff is kind of like beginning at the start. My first little confrontation, I've got like the minor confrontation. The first little hang up will be Barr can't find good evidence of voter fraud. He gets into a huge fight with Trump, and then maybe he thinks about quitting. I don't know if I'll go that far in that, but that goes to December 14th. But that's
that'd be good as like a first confrontation, like sort of breadcrumbing that there was dissent within the government about it, but like not loading it so much that people are going to want to click off right away or not listen.
And it's okay. It's just Barr. Barr is gone. After Barr is gone, that's okay. Then we go back to building more. So I've got Pence's story. So basically the ideas in the government, well, we can get Pence to actually choose who we want to win the election. And, I think we can do these things with him. We bounce back to the voter fraud claims. And now we've got like all of these different news agencies that are repeating, like OAN and Fox News and all these people saying, yeah, the voter fraud is real. It's rampant. The state legislators are starting to look into it. You've got the 64 court cases that now everybody's talking about. Sidney Powell talks about releasing the Kraken. You've got the DOJ stuff now that Barr's out. Now we've got new people on board that we can kind of like bring on board with all these voter fraud claims. And then back to Pence, where it's like we're going to talk to Pence and we're going to get him to be on board with everything as well. So we've got like 4 or 5 different things that are all working here that kind of are moving us towards being able to flip the election. And then after this, I've got this is like after all that building, I've got the major confrontation section. And then in here, it's going to be, I'll probably walk through for the voter fraud claims. Now I'll walk through like, well, here's 3, how they were very clearly dispelled, sometimes immediately. I might go to the end. It's like, and the way this ended, by the way, was Giuliani admitting to lying. I don't know if I'll put that in the aftermath section or not, but like, here's all of the voter fraud claims being shut down. Here are all the court cases that are basically being lost.
I would put Giuliani admitting to lying after J6, sort of during the like falling action, maybe towards the resolution.
I think so.
And the reason for that is it's like, in Goodfellas when the bad guys are getting caught and they're all turning on each other? That's essentially like the way you want to frame this, I think. It's like the bad guys are all united. They all are like in lockstep. They have like this motivation. And then you see like the consequences of their actions, and then you see them slowly break apart under pressure. I think that's going to be really important.
Yeah, I might do that. Yeah, post 6. Yeah. So I only have it written up to January 3rd, basically, for the voter fraud stuff, it all getting debunked. The court cases, I'm pretty sure by this point, every single court case has failed. I think that for Pence here, they are trying to pressure Pence into doing this, and he's not really going along with it. And then you've got the huge meeting in the Oval Office for the Department of Justice where they threaten to basically quit when he tries to do the Jeffrey Clark thing, and then that fails. And then you've got like this last ditch effort with Mike Pence. This is like your big like January 3rd to January 5th. They have that huge meeting on the 4th where they say Pence has to come through for us because he's basically our last ditch effort. And then after that, you kind of run into January 6th. And then the 6th is like kind of the culmination of all of these different things that show up on this day. Obviously, during this day, I'm going to have to like, hopefully now with the context of everything that's come before, we can listen to parts of like Trump's speech and say like, oh, he's referring to this plot and this failed thing and this thing that's been debunked and this and this and this, and then kind of like run through all the beats of J6th, and then after that fails essentially. I don't know where the climactic point would be. That probably something involving Pence for sure. And then after that, I would do an aftermath, which would probably be like a black screen with the white text. It's like 4,000 people were sentenced to whatever. Giuliani admitted to lying. Powell admitted to this. Blah 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 admitted to this. I feel like my last beat for the video, I feel like I really just want to play the clip of Donald Trump where he's saying like, no, I don't want to say I lost the election. We're just going to say the election is over or something like that. And I think that would probably be like the ending part of the.
That'd be powerful.
Sure.
How are you? I think that sounds like a good structure overall. How are you planning to visually present this video?
So for visually, so if you look at my draft 2, I have a ton. This probably took me the longest time. I just have so much like video testimony. What I really want to do is I'm thinking video testimony with depositions for the background. So I don't know if it'd be like a talking portrait or what, but I want as much of this to be presented. So I'll write a script where I'm kind of like narrating what's happening, but I really want as much to be presented in the form of video testimony as possible.
Yeah.
Because I'm probably going to have something.
Your face should not be in the video, I think.
Probably not. And I want to do as little reading as possible. But I think probably somewhere in my hook, because I think the most powerful thing about all this stuff is all of this is public. All of this is public testimony. All of it was given under oath. All of this is publicly reviewable. None of this is like, assumptions or inferences or conspiracy. Like all of it is like very publicly open.
Right.
And people have made tons of comments on it. So yeah.
Yeah, I think definitely getting your face out of it will be good, just because getting you out of the way and your like opinion out of the way will be an important part of presenting this, just so it seems just so it's clear that what you're going over is facts. This isn't a politically biased thing. This isn't like a partisan thing. This is like factually what happened from front to back. This is how it went down, and your face not being in it, I think, will help sell that better. Maybe you could do like a post note at the end, but I probably wouldn't, because I feel like if the video just ends on, a black screen of 4,000 people died and then it just shuts off, it'll be like, it's like in House of Cards when Frank Underwood kills that journalist. It's like a super powerful, just like ending, like, oh shit, you know what I mean? So I think that would be a good way to do it for sure. So
do you think from what I just read here, do you think there are any important beats that I'm missing, or because I've cut out a lot, there's a significant amount of stuff I've cut obviously to make this, because there's just so much information. I want to like overload people.
Well, I assume during the J6 part, you're going to mention the pipe bombs. The Proud Boys, like vaguely will be mentioned, I assume, right? To like
I'll just say
extent.
like, yeah, I don't think I'm going over the background of any of them. I probably won't even mention names. Yeah, it'll just be like basically a beat, like time by time of what's going on that day and Trump's inaction. And then the important thing I want to focus on J6 is where all of the prior plots connect. So like, I'll probably say like at 2:30, like they tried to walk the elector slates to Pence's attorneys, or this is when, these guys did that, but anything that connects to the prior stuff, basically. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that'd be good. I'm just going to scroll through. So draft 2 is the linked one, and draft 3 is the no links, just like presentation of the narrative, right?
Yeah, basically, yeah. Obviously, I'll flesh out the draft 3 more. I'll probably start script writing. For draft 2, these are just like, I want to be able to, I think I want to like go for like kind of, on some of these things, I want to go for like information rape. Like if I make a claim, I want to be able to show like, here's like 10 stories that repeat this thing, or here's like 5 different examples of this particular thing, rather than just like, here's like one post from the New York Times debunking. And then as much video and audio testimony as possible for everything, yeah.
You mind if I take a crack at this hook real quick?
Go for it.
Okay.
Wait, you want to take are you writing something?
Yeah, I'm going to try to just write it real quick. Okay, so thesis. Donald Trump and his associates knowingly made false claims of voter fraud in an attempt to pressure state legislatures to decertify their vote, or failing that, to get Congress or Mike Pence to refuse to certify Biden as the election winner on January 6th. That was planned before the election even took place. Trump and his associates knowingly incited a riot on January 6th and the furtherance of their schemes. Link videos here of Stone and Bannon talking about how they want to stop the count. Okay, so this is hook. Donald Trump's presidency has received unprecedented media attention.
Oh, can I ask one quick question?
Yeah.
So I kind of tried to write down like at a timeline for how I feel like this works, or like a flow chart. I don't know if it would be worth having something like this to go through, or if it just makes things too complicated. I don't know if but basically I linked you a picture. You got it?
Yeah. So election night.
So basically, after election night, you get voter fraud. The voter fraud was meant to induce DOJ fraud, and then it was used to feed into the court cases. It was used to pressure state legislatures. It was used to pressure the public, and it was used to make fake elector slates. The DOJ fraud and the court cases were meant to also pressure state legislatures. All of those failed. And then the electorate slate fraud was meant to help Mike Pence choose something different, as was the public pressure. And then the state legislatures flipping and the public pressure was meant to challenge the certification in Congress. And then all of this is trying to decertify the election. I don't know if it's
and then
worth
all these attempts lead to like the next beat is just January 6th. And then after that, the next beat would be everything that happened after, basically.
Kind of, yeah. I don't know if it's worth following a timeline or if it's a little bit too convoluted or...
Following a general timeline is good for like, because you don't want to be jumping back too much. It's very good to be like, meanwhile, while voter fraud claims or sorry, we could be like, meanwhile, while DOJ fraud and 64 court cases are being filed, the elector slate frauds happened, and you don't want to say fraud, but there was issues with the electors or something like that, and then jumping back to the legislature, this was causing issues for our government, and retracting their votes, and then this kind of all builds, and then there's public pressure, and the public pressure is like, meanwhile, with the government in turmoil or the government in deadlock, whatever terminology you want to use, meanwhile the public was seeing what was going on and was extremely concerned, and like I think you should frame it almost as if like concerns about voter fraud were valid. I think like whether or not there was any proof, like Trump, the people, you don't want to paint it as if every Trump supporter is just like Trump. You want to paint it as if they're almost victims of him, I think, is a way to do it, because that's
I agree 100%.
How they have to feel like they're lied to. Like when I'm covering a video about false allegations, the most deadly thing you can do is call every single person in the audience retarded, as much as I want to, because it's right. It's like you need those people to come around and agree. You need those people to realize that they've been duped, So yeah, I think this is good though.
Okay.
All right. So Donald Trump's presidency has received unprecedented media attention. The freaking focus on what happened January 6, 2020. Some of his more radicalist forward, you can't say that. Concerned citizens. Probably have to change that. Concerned citizens marched on the United States Capitol. Several hundred entering government buildings. All right, so generally keeping stuff like this super, like generally brief is good. Another thing is going to be like breadcrumbing information. So I'm going to send you this link. Obviously you don't have to use this, but this is just like my crack at it. Essentially the way that I set this up is you open on like giving people the reason why this is important, right? So you say his presidency has received unprecedented media attention, which is true. Bipartisanly, people can both agree with that. And then you say with a particular focus on what happened on January 6, 2020. So then you qualify that statement. And then it's concerned citizens marched, and you could probably change this phrasing to something less charitable to them. But the reason I say concerned citizens is just with the idea in mind that you don't want to piss off anybody who thinks January 6 wasn't a big deal right off the bat, right? Concerned citizens marched on the United States Capitol with several hundred entering government buildings alongside the police officers. The reason I put alongside the police officers is because this kind of is like a pleasing both sides statement before you've really gotten into the meat of it. Because on one hand, people who believe that the police led them in there will be like, oh, based, he's right. And then on the other hand, people who like have a much different view of it aren't going to see it as super loaded language, in my opinion. Like, I don't think they're going to really be super upset about that. And another important thing about this sentence that I think maybe I could have conveyed better, but the reason that I phrase it this way is when I say concerned citizens march on the United States Capitol, and then I say several hundred enter government buildings, it's because I'm trying to delineate between the protesters and then those who actually enter the building. Because obviously a lot of people say, oh, it's just a protest and there were some bad apples. So I'm kind of like almost playing into their preconceived notion about that here. So with that out of the way, that's all the context. And I say resulting in the death of Ashley Babbitt. Trump has received criticism for supposedly inciting the violence that occurred, right? So here, this is a very unloaded term. It's like, this is one side on what they believe it's supposed, right? Maybe it's not true. Well, many question if he should be held responsible at all. And this is like representing his supporters in a, once again, less loaded terminology, because I feel like the people you're appealing to here are not going to be you're never going to convince like the fascistic supporters of him who think it was a good thing, right? You're trying to get other people to see that, like, wait, I'm in the same, like, are we the bad guys? Like, am I in the same room as these people, right?
Sure.
So that's why I kind of phrase it that way, because those are the people you're trying to appeal to, really, the moderates. Today, we'll break down the full timeline from every publicly available resource and attempt to get to the bottom of what happened. And so the reason I say that is just to show, like, you know, you're taking into account every single portion of this in an attempt to, like, almost extend an olive branch and be like, hey, I'm looking at it all. You know, we're going to see what we find. Now, obviously, there are some people who aren't going to believe you're looking at everything. Maybe this line could be changed. It might even be helpful if you want to say that to go a little further and be like, all sources for every single part of this will be cited in the description below or something like that. Like, that might be a good thing to do. But basically, the reason that you want to do that is just to show, like, we're not just looking at CNN. We're not just looking at MSNBC and Rachel Maddow. We're looking at every single publicly available source that we can find to try and pull it all together. And I think that could be a powerful thing. And so from there, here, what I would do in a video is there's like two ways to go about it. On one hand, either you can jump straight into the timeline, or on the other hand, you can try to do something more creative, like an edited kind of music montage. So you would like pick a track that kind of fits and then pick a bunch of clips that would communicate the gravity of what's happening without communicating the thesis too much. Maybe you can breadcrumb the thesis a little bit towards the end, but typically like a 20 second to, 20 seconds probably too short, typically like a 30-second probably little intro that gets as many clips as possible throughout from the entire thing, like from the front to back of the story, that is going to get people in the door without drawing the conclusion too hard so they don't want to stop watching, right? That's basically the way I would do that. It's not necessarily needed, but it could help to try to sell this as more of like a movie type thing. Another great channel, I think, that, because you talked about you're going to be using interview footage from court, right? Like discovery footage or like court interviews or stuff like that. I think one helpful channel that does that really well in terms of pacing, obviously you're gonna have to jump around a lot more than they do, but like JCS does a really good job. I'm sure you've seen their videos.
Yeah, I have.
Of just like showing how those people talk and think and letting them communicate what they want. Because if you watch a JCS video, I'd say probably like 30 to 40% of it is actually commentary from the narrators, and the rest is all in the words of the people involved. And I think that can be a really powerful thing, which I think is what you're trying to go for here. So in terms of like editing style, I think that's a helpful thing to use. But yeah, that's kind of how if the Turkey Tom channel was tackling the topic of January 6th, that's how I would do it. Yeah.
All right.
And then the thesis, that would basically be, like, I would retitle that as conclusion. And then by that point, you've already shown everything. If they watch that far, they're going to basically agree with your conclusion unless they're retarded. So that's how I would do it, yeah.
Ideally, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, how's life going?
yeah,
Anything fun with you?
It's good. Just, I don't know, dealing with some retarded people as always. I mean, you saw the Bolex thing. That was just funny. How much of the lore did Nick get into with that with you?
I think I listened for like 10 minutes, but I don't, something about BPD and lying about some bullshit, and I don't know. I don't care that much.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
It doesn't really matter. It's just that, and then this like Sam Hyde, Sucker Froggy Fresh is like mad at me for, I don't know, I guess I called him irrelevant. He's been like spurting out at me on Twitter all day, but it's nothing like, you know, it's just funny shit.
Damn.
I destroyed him. Yeah. How are you?
I'm okay. Just working, streaming, you know.
Nice. Was Nathan at your place for a while? I think I saw that.
Yeah, that was like a month or two ago, though. Yeah, but for about a month, yeah.
Okay. How was it? It was swag? It was good?
Yeah, you know, there were lots of skibbity memes and, you know.
He definitely knows what it is, doesn't he?
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. He's is it Gen Alpha? What do they call the really young people?
Yeah. The Gen Alpha. That's goated. That's goated with the fucking... Ooh, that's good. Oh, fuck. Wait, I have something. This is really important.
Uh-oh.
Let me find this. Yeah, just pull this up real quick, all right? This is cool.
I think that we should be together. I'm going to keep watching the Talk Tua podcast and keep pursuing my dream of getting top from Hawk Tua herself, which means I won't be able to spend as much time with you. And even when I do spend time with you, I'm going to be thinking about touring. I'm going to be thinking about the podcast and Hawk Tua and all that. And because of that, you're going to start to resent me. And we'll have this back and forth where we will keep arguing because I'd rather watch Talk Tua than be there for you, which would make you even hate me more and so on. So that's why I think it's best to just end it with you giving me Hawk Tua and forget that we ever cross paths and become strangers again.
So I was just an object to you?
Yeah.
And I barely see you anyway?
Yeah.
And when I did see you, you treat me like shit because I'm just some girl who doesn't watch Talk Tua, and you have a path, and you're going to be great, and I'm going to be forgotten, and therefore you won't be able to give me the time of day because you have a podcast to listen to.
That's exactly my point.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
Say it aggressive, like really.
Well,
I've seen a
what'd you
few of
think?
these. These are pretty good.
Had you going? That's good.
There's a
All
few
right.
of these. I've seen a couple Whiplash memes, I think, now with that. Yeah. But, okay.
Yeah. All right. Take it easy, buddy. Have
All
fun.
right, love you. Be careful.